and we'll just give everyone just a moment to arrive. Started shortly. We'll get started in just one more minute. We'll give everyone just another moment to arrive. Thank you for being here. Okay, everyone, welcome. So nice to be here with you. So we have a message in the chat, and I'd love to hear for those of you who have joined already. We're going to hopefully have some more stream on in today. So while we're waiting, I'd love to know where you're calling in from, where you're dialing in from, and also would love to know if you'd be willing to share with the group what has been your biggest challenge or surprise in menopause so far. I know for me, I would say that probably the symptom that has given me the most challenges is probably a toss up between brain fog and premenstrual, um, mood changes. My mood really dips during my cycle, right before my cycle, and so I would say those are my two biggest struggles. So I'd love to hear from you what has been the biggest challenge. Okay, Lindsay, weight gain and the brain fog. Yes, yes, these are so common. These are so common. Okay, so we'll love to hear from you. So please feel free to share some of your thoughts. Jackie mentions her biggest challenge being brain changes and mood changes, extreme rage. Yes, I know that. I know that extreme rage. Yeah, and over stupid things, and then not so stupid things. Brain fog, weight gain. Heather says brain fog, cycling, hormones. Yeah, mood, appetite, insomnia. Okay, all right. Well, we're gonna dig into all of this today. It is so nice to be here with you. Hi, my name is Allison, and I see some familiar names and faces, and some new ones. So that is wonderful. It's a very rainy day here in New York, and I know there are some big storms coming out west. So wishing everyone, a well and just a safe day out there. Okay, so as we can see, just from the those ladies who have shared in the chat, menopause can be just a very rocky ride, and it really can feel like just uncharted territory. But what I want to share with you is that there's a really a deeper, more interconnected story happening in our body, and one that can really help us make sense of the symptoms that we're actually feeling. And so that story starts in the gut. Now, many of us are very well aware of many of the important tactics related to, say, protein intake and strength training to really help manage our menopause. But today we're going to talk all about the microbiome, how it changes during menopause, the role it plays in our overall well being. And my goal really is to connect the dots and just leave you with lots of practical strategies to help you feel better, not just now, but for the long term. And this is really a time for us to come together, learn from each other, gain lots of new perspectives, gain some more clarity, realize we are absolutely not alone on this journey. I am right there along with all of you going through my journey. So I'd love it if you would leave your questions in the chat, and I will absolutely do my best to get to them. And we will also have time at the end for questions. So before I dig in, I'd love to just introduce myself. My name is Allison. As I said, this is me at 5 in way back in those good old pre-perimenopausal days. Growing up, I was surrounded by fresh food. We had a big garden in our backyard, and literally we grew everything. I loved playing in the dirt. It's probably where my love for food, good fresh food, really came from. I went on to earn my graduate degree at NYU, and then became a registered dietitian. And eventually, I was very fortunate. It was a total dream to find myself at one of the biggest tech companies at the time, and it actually still is, complete with free lunches, all the perks, you name it. And I was working with their chefs, running their culinary nutrition program. And again, it was a total dream. On the outside, everything looked perfect, but inside I was struggling really hard. I was a perfectionist. I was working, over exercising, and I had a full blown eating disorder. So eventually, after years, the exhaustion, the debilitating PMS, the PMDD, that's premenstrual dysphoric disorder. It's a severe depression right before our period, brain fog, digestive issues, food sensitivities. I mean, you name it. I was really in a very challenging time in my life. And there was one night I was driving home from work, and I was on my commute, and I almost fell asleep at the wheel. My brain fog and my exhaustion was so debilitating. And that was really my wake up call. So I found a functional medicine doctor who took a root cause approach, to understanding my issues. And it turned out I had, no surprise really, I had severe hormonal imbalances. My doctor told me that basically I was producing barely any progesterone. I was in essentially a near perimenopausal state. And a GI map stool test actually revealed that I had some severe gut issues. So this is when, again, I started my journey, my healing journey, and I learned all I could about functional nutrition and how we can use just amazing, delicious food as medicine to really heal our body and optimize our entire system. So this is the work I do now with women, and I work with them as both their clinician, really addressing some of these root causes, identifying them, and then addressing them, and as their coach, really supporting them in integrating these changes into their daily life with the guidance, the accountability, so they can really get their breakthroughs for sustainable change. So, this is my story, but many of you may see parts of yourself in my story. And so, maybe you're feeling extreme exhaustion, overwhelm, frustration, lack of clarity about how to actually manage your menopausal symptoms. Maybe you're here because you're struggling with low energy, digestive issues, overall, just a sense of lack of well being, and you're really just ready to take back control. So, we'll explore some deeper layers here, understanding a little bit more what might be actually impacting as a root cause some of your menopausal symptoms and your overall experience, and really help give you a path forward for better health and vitality and energy, and just an overall easier menopausal transition. Okay. So let's dive in. What in the heck is actually happening here? So here we have essentially our primary sex hormones, estrogen and progesterone, over the course of a woman's lifespan, from childhood all the way up to menopause, postmenopause. And I think we can all agree it is a wild ride, right? So if we kind of just dial in here, the perimenopausal phase. And so, what is that? So, perimenopause is the 5 to 10 years roughly leading up to the menopause. The menopause is defined as just literally it's a one moment in time. It's literally just a day, defined as 12 consecutive months without a period. And so everything thereafter is postmenopause, but those 5 to 10 years that typically start in a woman's 40s, but certainly can start as early as her 30s. And we're actually seeing more women in perimenopause in earlier years. And so we can kind of see here. So we'll start with progesterone. Progesterone gives us this sense of calm, and it helps with our sleep. And it just is a lovely, lovely energy that we get from progesterone. And we can see that when we hit perimenopause, those levels are slowly declining. And then if we look at estrogen, estrogen is doing weird and wild things. At first, in early perimenopause, our estrogen levels are actually fluctuating rather wildly and widely. And so the highs are very high, the lows are very low. And eventually, ultimately, our ovarian function stops. Actually, we've exhausted our supply of eggs, and the levels of these hormones decline until and we essentially don't have a menstrual cycle anymore, and this is really marks the end of our fertile years. Okay, and so we want to, because we're here to talk about the gut microbiome. So, what actually in the heck is the gut microbiome? Many of you, I'm sure, are well aware, but just as a review, so this is a community of trillions and trillions of bacteria, fungi, parasites, microorganisms, microbes that are living in our digestive tract. And so, why do they matter? Right. And so, this is really important. So, for one thing, our gut microbiome helps us digest our food, breaks down our food to help us absorb nutrients. So, if we have imbalances in our gut microbiome, think of it, if we're not absorbing our nutrients from the food we're eating, it may cause exhaustion, fatigue, cravings, and hunger, right? Our body is basically driving us to get more food, more nutrients, to really get that energy that it needs to maintain our energy demands, essentially. Our immunity is essential for our immune system and protecting us from harmful invaders. Metabolism, okay, this is a biggie, right? Especially here as we get to menopause. And I know that body weight changes was a big concern for a lot of ladies who joined us and mentioned in the chat. And so our gut microbiome actually influences our metabolism, our weight, our energy levels, our blood sugar balance. And so if we have imbalances in our gut microbiome, consider how this might slow our metabolism, our metabolic rate, and lead to changes in our body weight, low energy, in spite of appropriate calorie intake, right? Next, cholesterol absorption. This is actually really, really key. So, changes in our gut microbiome, or imbalances, can really interrupt the process of how we absorb and eventually eliminate cholesterol, whether it's what we produce on our own or what we eat from food. And this is so important because we know that with menopause, as estrogen levels decline, women are at a significantly higher risk of developing heart disease, right? And so you might start noticing your cholesterol levels creeping up in this phase. And so in part, there potentially could be changes in the gut microbiome. And then hormones and mood. This is such a biggie. Obviously, there's a very direct impact on hormone regulation and hormone production, and certainly our brain health and our mood. So if we think about the HPA axis, if you're familiar with that term, it's really the bidirectional pathway between the gut and the brain that are constantly in communication, right? And so you've probably heard before that 90% of our serotonin, that feel good neurotransmitter, is actually produced by our microbes in our gut. So imagine if we have imbalances in our gut, how that actually influences these particular chemicals and overall our mood. Okay, and so what's causing these imbalances, right? It's obviously diet, generally a high processed foods diet, but certainly other things can influence when it comes to nutrition. Stress is huge. Environmental toxins like plastics and parabens, right? Things in our cleaning supplies and our beauty products. Poor sleep and lifestyle can have a significant impact on our gut microbiome. And so if we're not sleeping very well, which is tends to be an issue in perimenopause, and that can be specifically related to those changes in progesterone, as I mentioned, progesterone declining is going to impact our sleep potentially. So alcohol also is, kind of a lifestyle factor that's going to impact the gut microbiome. And then life stage, right? And so that's kind of why we're here, because it turns out that with these drops in estrogen, as estrogen continues to decline over the course of our perimenopausal menopausal journey, it's actually causing some significant impacts on our gut microbiome. All right, so there's actually quite a few ways here, but I'm going to just highlight four of them. So, lower estrogen can really throw off the balance of like those good and bad bacteria in our gut, right? And this leads to something called dysbiosis. You might be familiar with that term. And this imbalance can actually ripple out, cause mood changes, lowered immunity. It can even cause difficulty managing weight. And they're actually even finding that there are specific gut strains, as they're doing so much research on the gut microbiome, recognizing just how important it is for our overall health. But finding that specific gut strains are actually associated with certain conditions. So, for example, there's a strain called Akkermansia, excuse me, and that strain is associated with very low counts of it are associated with carrying extra weight. So, second, the integrity of the gut wall starts to be compromised, and this it causes an increased permeability. So if you think about our gut wall has these sort of like tight junctions, they're called. And so if we're, excuse me, if our gut wall is a little bit more permeable, that means that unwanted particles like food particles and things that are supposed to just stay in our digestive system for elimination, ultimately through our gut, they actually start to pass into the bloodstream. And this can trigger severe inflammation, food sensitivities, joint aches and pains, skin issues, bloating, gas. And there's lots of things that are actually impacting the integrity of that gut wall. I mean, certainly stress is going to do that, inflammation, environmental toxins, a lot of the things that I mentioned in our last slide. And then third, estrogen, as it lowers, and estrogen has an impact on basically kind of how fast food and things move through our digestive tract. So this is what we call gastric motility. And so if we're having lower estrogen levels and our GI system is just slowing down, that's going to cause bloating, constipation, gas, and just generally feeling sort of sluggish after meal times. And then last, and this one is a really important one, and I think there's just so much more information coming out about it because there's so much attention on them. But Lower estrogen can actually lead to lower production of GLP-1. This is a very important hormone. And so you're probably, or maybe you've heard about it because it is basically the synthetic hormone behind Ozempic and Wegovy, like these weight loss medications that are becoming so popular. And now this is actually a hormone that we naturally produce. And so we eat meals so that it's produced as a response to meals. It helps to regulate our appetite. It sends signals that we've had enough to eat. So we don't, it sends fullness signals we had enough to eat. And it also helps to regulate insulin sensitivity. So if we're not producing enough GLP-1 because we have imbalances in our gut and because of the menopausal changes, then that potentially can lead to cravings and erratic blood sugars, hunger, weight gains, and difficulty with losing weight. So I mentioned before the Akkermansia strain. This is actually a key strain that is very much part of GLP-1 production. So, obviously there's a correlation there. Now, these changes are, just I think they reinforce just how interconnected our gut is with our overall health, and especially during menopause. So now there is good news, and there is just so many strategies that we can put in place to really rebuild and support a healthy gut microbiome, even during this stage of our lives, even during this menopausal stage. And so we're going to explore those in a bit. So I know that was a lot. I'd love to just check in. How is everyone doing? Questions? GLP-1 imbalance to gut, difficulty in losing weight. Is there a herbal or natural supplement to take? So we're going to talk actually. So please be sure to stay to the end, because that's some of the strategies that I'm going to share with you are specifically on how you can actually naturally increase your GLP-1 production. So great question. And we're going to get to that. Okay. So now I want to kind of just take a quick break, and we're going to do sort of a little bit of a pulse check here. So what I'm going to do is ask you a series of questions, of 7 questions for you about your general health. And you'll score yourself based on how often you experience each symptom. So we're talking frequency here. We are not talking severity. That is a whole nother line of questioning, but certainly matters as well. But so if you experience this symptom frequently, give yourself 2 points. Occasionally, you'll give yourself 1 point. And if you never experience this, well, that is amazing. And maybe, you can go now. You don't need this webinar. You're doing great. But I know that these symptoms tend to be very common in menopause. So let's dig in. Okay, so bloating, gas, constipation, and you are so welcome to let us know in the comments. Are you a frequently, an occasionally, a never? And you can also just keep a little tally on your own here as we go forward. Okay, number 2, GI upset. So this is specifically when you eat certain foods. So maybe a food sensitivity or a food intolerance. All right. Anyone feel like sharing? Any brave souls? Any brave souls? I would actually say that when I was going through my journey, I was like scoring a 3 on maybe a 10 on every single one of these symptoms. I was really struggling with them. Okay, number 4. I'm sorry, did we do persistent? I'm sorry, number 3, persistent fatigue, excuse me, brain fog, trouble concentrating. Number 4, skin issues like itching, dryness, breakouts. How about number 5, stubborn weight, especially around the belly? Number 6, increased anxiety, mood swings, low mood that really seem unrelated to external stressors. So of course we have stressors in our life, but this is like, sort of a general kind of low key sort of energy that you find that has nothing to do necessarily with what's going on in your life, external stressors. And number 7, heavy, painful periods, PMS, cramping. All right. Okay, so feel free to tally up your score. And generally, you can just, take a look. Are you mostly twos? Are you mostly ones? Are you, mostly zeros? That's amazing, right? So you can kind of hopefully get a little feel here for what's going on in your overall symptomology. Now, of course, these symptoms can also be linked to many other chronic health issues, as well as menopause. So we have some scores coming in, all of the above. Itchy ears, yes, Heather, I know this is related to histamine, related to some gut imbalances in our and histamine intolerance. Lindsay, all twos except for seven, excuse me. Heather has an 8, Shirani a 12, 10, 7, 11. Okay, okay. Suzanne says she's an 8, but I've had to have a subtotal hysterectomy due to cancer. Okay, okay. I hope you're doing okay with that. All right, yeah. So, again, this hopefully is connecting some dots. So, as I said, these symptoms can be associated with many things, but research is increasingly showing us that there are, these are really strongly correlated with gut imbalances. And we don't actually need to have classic GI symptoms to have imbalances in our gut. So, the imbalances in our gut aren't really just a side note, right? They are very much interrelated with our menopausal journey. And they often can be a root cause driving many of these symptoms, or at least exacerbating some of the symptoms from those declines in our hormones. So, by addressing our gut health, and we're not just managing these symptoms, we're really tackling kind of a foundation of our well-being. So, okay, this is a tracker that is obviously it's helping us identify some patterns, connecting some dots, and we'll see how it all fits into the bigger picture as we go. So just keep it to the side for now. All right. Now, this kind of begs the question, can we actually know what's happening in our gut microbiome? And the answer is that yes, indeed, there is actually a very interesting test. It's called the GI map. It's a stool test. And this is actually a very, very basic test that most functional medicine doctors will use in their practice. It's what the test that my doctor used for me came back, and we saw all kinds of issues going on in my gut. And so ultimately, it really helps us look into infections, inflammation, right? The bacterial makeup. What is the balance of those good to bad bugs I mentioned? Is there significant dysbiosis or a lot of bad bugs, pathogenic bugs? It'll tell us about our digestive enzyme production. Are we able to actually break down our food and absorb and absorb those nutrients? And then it's also going to give us some measures around our gut wall integrity, or I didn't mention, but you might be familiar. It's sometimes is called leaky gut. So it'll help us understand a little bit about our gut wall integrity. And this is actually a test that we can use not just if we're experiencing GI issues, although that's very obvious, but like for food sensitivities, right? Skin changes, weight gain, weight loss resistance, a lot of these conditions or symptoms that I mentioned I've been mentioning in these previous slides. So again, joint aches, right? Systemic inflammation, brain fog, anxiety, depression. Darlene says, I'm thankfully I'm only at 3 points now after finding solutions to help. Amazing. That's so great. Feel so much better now, but happy to learn more. Yeah, great to have you here. And sounds like you've done, and you feel free to share with us, what steps you've been able to take. Okay. So I would love to introduce you now to a client, one of my dear clients. Her name is Alicia. And she came to me basically just frustrated out of her mind. I'm doing all the right things. Now, how many of you can sort of, take that and just agree, like, I am doing all the right things? And I hear this from my clients all the time. And, unfortunately, and what we've been doing in our 20s and 30s to feel well, to stay energized and vibrant and healthy, aren't necessarily the strategies that are going to work for us as we are experiencing all of these significant hormonal changes. So, as we approach menopause, it is an entirely new game. And so it's going to require a lot of new strategies. So, it's just an important thing to think about, that, we have to be sort of open to doing things a little differently as we approach this phase and as we find ourselves in this phase of our lives. So she came to me. She's, again, 42-year-old. She is a director at a company. She has a very demanding role. She is, tries to maintain a very active lifestyle. She cycles 5 days a week on her lunch breaks, eating what she thought was a very healthy diet. And, she didn't really drink too much and worked really hard to stay fit. But behind the scenes, I mean, she was struggling with so many symptoms. And I feel like my situation and my case was so similar to Alicia. Exhaustion, energy, 5 out of 10 on the energy scale. Severe bloating, food sensitivities, specifically to gluten and dairy. She experienced weight gain and constant cravings for sugar and carbohydrates. She wasn't sleeping well. She was waking up every night with horrible night sweats that were keeping her up for a couple of hours every night. Brain fog, anxiety, depression, stress. I mean, she was really, really struggling. Now, she had some very big goals and dreams. So, for one thing, she was in the running for a promotion, and so she also wanted to conceive. She really wanted to have a baby. This was a big dream of hers, and she was starting to kind of write it off as a possibility. Now, as I dug deeper and did some other testing with her, it became really clear she was actually navigating early perimenopause. And okay, so we had a look into her microbiome using the GI map stool test. And now you can see here there's a lot of red. So she had some severe dysbiosis going on. Again, that's the real imbalance of those good to bad bugs in her gut. So she had lots of dysbiosis, lots of high counts of these bad bugs. She had systemic inflammation. And she also had her marker for her intestinal permeability. Again, that leaky gut. In fact, we found that she had, quite a bit of intestinal permeability going on, which was probably causing a lot of her food sensitivities and her gas and bloating. I mean, in part, she had some other things, she obviously had some other things going on. So, what did we do? All right. We dialed in a highly personalized nutrition plan to really heal her gut and stabilize her hormones. So, as her nutritionist, I really helped her learn to understand what her body truly needed, how much, what kinds of foods to eat for healing. And she really had some struggles, some kind of stories, old stories around how much to eat to maintain her weight. And we really worked hard to kind of dismantle and loosen some of these, beliefs that she was holding really tightly, and unpacked them and recognized, the ways that some of these limiting beliefs were really holding her back from making better choices, and certainly fueling and nourishing herself in a way that was going to support her demanding lifestyle. I introduced a supplement protocol to help her repair her gut, build her resilience to stress. And we also shifted her rigid approach to exercise. So she, again, like cycling every single day. And I know this was back in the Bay Area, and I know the rides because I used to cycle too. And this was me, battling up those hills. And so we found that vigorous exercise was actually really impairing her gut. And so we really shifted her rigid approach to exercise, incorporated a little bit more balance, and helping her reduce her stress, restore her energy. And so over time, we were really able to clean up her gut and also her work life balance, helping her really lower her stress and align her lifestyle more with her goals. So I am excited to share with you her results because she did incredible. So what happened? Well, Alicia's energy returned, her sleep improved, her cravings disappeared. She shed some of the unwanted weight that had been bothering her, and her brain fog cleared. She really started to feel like herself again. So that year, she landed her promotion, and she actually traveled to Greece for 3 weeks on a solo trip. And 3 years later, she is now she's welcoming her first baby. has welcomed her first baby, I should say, and is now planning her wedding. So she did amazing, and it was just such an honor to be able to work with her and and support her through these processes, to really heal her, help her heal. And I think her story really is such a testament to what's possible when we address some of the root causes of our symptoms, right? So, as her clinician, we work to identify those imbalances, and as her coach, really helping her dismantle some of her limiting stories and beliefs, and challenge some of her mindset around how to kind of move forward and really nourish herself, through not just food but her lifestyle, to support her health and her well-being. So it really all comes down to identifying those imbalances and really creating a very personal, structured plan that incorporates all the things: the nutrition, the movement, the mindset, and stress, right? Our sleep. So it's all comes together to really come back into balance. So now, if Alicia's story is resonating with you and you'd like to connect and learn more about how I can maybe support you with it, my friend Lindsay here is going to drop a link in the comments if you want to just schedule some time on our calendars, and I'd be happy to talk. All right, so now let's kind of revisit that tracker. And I'd love to know, are you noticing any connections between your own nutrition, movement, stress, and sleep habits, as well as your gut health and your menopausal symptoms? So, what kind of connections are you beginning to kind of recognize or identify here? Uh-oh. Is can everyone hear me now? I'm just recognizing. Can you hear me? Okay, good. Sorry about that, everyone. That was very scary for a split second. Okay, good. Yeah, so tell us in the chat, know what kind of connections are you beginning to notice here? Because as I said, these symptoms are linked potentially to underlying conditions, but we do know that these are all correlated with the gut, and we know that there are changes in the menopausal microbiome. Lindsay, yes, yes, there is definitely a strong correlation. Excuse me. Burnout in my job can lead to some of these flaring up. Britta, yes, absolutely. And that is so common, in fact, that most of the women that I work with, high achieving, high performing, ambitious, can kill it in work and in their lives. And as our body is shifting and our hormones are changing, we just don't have the same resilience to the stress that we used to. So we're more apt to burn out, because again, we have such changes in our hormones that aren't going to really support our resilience in the same ways. Anybody else? Sandra, same workouts and diet aren't working anymore. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So curious if you've been able to identify new workouts, new ways of working out and moving, and certainly nourishing yourself to support kind of this changing hormonal environment. Lots of stress related to teenager battles. I'm sure isn't helping my gut issues. Yes, yes. I think someone mentioned the menopausal hormonal rage. Yeah, yeah. Absolutely. And I mean, this is a challenging time, right, for women, because we're leading, excuse me, very full lives, potentially taking care of our aging parents. We're taking care of teenagers, young children, and we're in some cases at the prime of our career. Some of us managing our own businesses, right? So it's a challenging time as our hormones are shifting. Gluten-free and dairy-free has helped sleep and feeling so much better with yoga and hiking in nature, also reducing oxidative stress, supporting mitochondria, increasing that GLP-1 hormone. Yeah, great. Well, thank you. That is a beautiful segue, Darlene, into our next slide, because I'd love to share some strategies on how we actually kind of move forward here. All right, so starting number one, this is one of the most important mindset shifts that I encourage my clients to focus on. This actually has served me incredibly well as well. And so that is prioritizing food quality over calories. So now, of course, calories do matter. I don't want to say, I suggest that they don't. But most of the menopausal ladies that I work with just aren't actually eating enough. And so this was related to trying to manipulate, body composition changes. And so they maybe are restricting their calories too much, obviously having some impact on metabolism in that way. Now, I had a client who was doing a lot of food tracking. She was struggling with weight gain, doing her best to keep at a very specific and kind of low calorie goal. But when I dug deeper into what she was actually eating, she was eating a lot of processed meats to meet her protein goals. She was eating kind of more what we might call indulgent meals with keeping portions smaller. So she was able to meet those calorie goals she had set for herself, but her weight continued to climb. It wasn't helping her. So she was struggling with severe digestive issues with the weight gain. And so we've really shifted from focusing on the calories to really getting quality in. And that's ultimately one of the most important things that really helps her stabilize her weight and get her on a path to gut healing. Number two, develop a diversified gut microbiome. Now, this is what we're really talking about is diversifying the types of bugs, the different strains in our gut. So preferably, obviously, with the good beneficial ones. And variety here is so key. So, getting back to Alicia's story, she had a very hectic schedule, didn't want to have to think about what to eat. And this is so common for all of us who are busy. We're managing all kinds of things, busy schedules. And we just want meals to be quick and easy without a lot of mental energy. So Alicia was eating a lot of the same foods over and over again, right? As just kind of like what, her habit basically. And this meant this was little like this was causing little diversity in her gut, and it allowed many of those pathogenic or those bad bacteria to really proliferate and cause that dysbiosis or that that imbalance of good to bad bugs. So we really, worked on strategizing, helping her increase the variety in her diet. And I love to recommend as many colors on your plate as possible. And this means that you're going to get lots of antioxidants and phytochemicals and nutrients and certainly fibers, specific fibers that are going to nourish those bugs in your gut. Okay. Now, for example, like the anthocyanins or the red and purple, vegetable fruits and vegetables that are available, like beets and blueberries, they can help to propagate bifidobacterium and lactobacillus, which are so important to keep inflammation down in the gut and also to maintain the integrity of that gut wall lining that we talked about as being so important. Next, number three. So this is probably not going to come as some surprise as we're talking about the gut microbiome. I am definitely going to talk to you about adding more fiber because it is so essential. And we want to shoot for about 25 to 35 grams a day. Now, that is a lot of fiber, and especially if we're not eating that much of it. And on average, we're probably getting closer to half that, about 14 grams, generally as a general population. Now, these fibers are serving as prebiotics, I kind of had mentioned, that are going to nourish those bacteria in the gut. So fruits, vegetables, whole grains, right? Lentils, nuts, seeds, all of those things. Now, the one caveat is that, as you may know, that when we are in menopause, as our estrogen is declining, we are becoming naturally less insulin sensitive. So our insulin isn't working quite as well. We become a little bit less carbohydrate tolerant. So we don't metabolize carbohydrates quite as well. Our blood sugars can creep up a little bit. It's also what leads to the cravings and the blood sugar roller coaster rise and that blood sugar dysregulation. And so ultimately, we need to make sure that we are getting in the fiber while also managing our carbohydrate intake, right? And really kind of striking that balance, because our fiber rich foods are also our carbohydrate rich foods. So that can be a little bit tricky. And then next and last, Managing stressful thoughts. This is such a biggie. It's essential for our gut health and our microbiome. So obviously managing our stress is so important for our overall health, but specifically because it has such a direct impact on our gut microbiome and the impact on our gut brain axis. So we know that stress really increases cortisol. So that can change gut motility and compromise that gut lining. So we want to make sure that we are doing what we can to recognize some of the limiting beliefs and stories that we're sort of telling ourselves. This is the way our brain functions. This is brain doing its thing. And many of the thoughts that necessarily those negative ones aren't necessarily ones that are true, right? So we get to kind of question, is that true? Is that a true thought? Ultimately, is that a thought that's serving me? And so over time, we can get really good at identifying those thoughts and then actually working to change them. And that is going to have a significant impact on your stress response, and it can really help heal your gut. And this is actually one of the key things that we do in coaching together, as I'm putting on my my coach hat, uh, um, to help my clients identify these things and work to change them. Okay. Let me just check in the chat here. Do I work with or refer to a psychologist? So yes, I do actually. I work with a psychiatrist. I see many of his patients, and so refer back to his clinic where he also has psychologists that are in the practice. Heather, yeah. Okay. Now, here, so I've listed 4 strategies, right? And these are a great starting point. And of course, gut health, while being foundational, is really only one piece of the menopausal puzzle. So, real transformation happens when these recommendations are actually put in place and tailored to your unique needs and goals. And so, I'd love to share with you my program. Basically the way that I worked with Alicia to help her go step by step to really healing and getting to such an amazing, her amazing breakthroughs and her amazing health today. So this is where we can really understand like your specific circumstances, those ones that were highlighted in your symptom tracker. And so I'd love to share that with you. And so I'm going to share that with you. And then, of course, we're going to also take time for questions as we go. So I'd love to tell you all about Renew and Restore. This is a gut hormone reset, a New Year's journey. This is a perfect time of year for specifically this offer. And so, what is included? 10 one on one sessions with me. We are going to do some GI map stool testing to understand specifically what's going on in your gut microbiome. And then we will review those results and create an action plan to really heal and clean up your gut. We're going to work on creating that very personalized nutrition plan specifically for your goals, your lifestyle, your fitness requirements, right? Specifically what you have going on, because we do know that there's lots of changes. And again, so we have to put in a new plan for this new hormonal picture that we are kind of managing in this phase. Over 50 menopause and gut friendly recipes to really help stabilize your hormones and heal your gut. Obviously, the accountability, the problem solving, the mindset work that was so important to Alicia and her journey. And then I also have a self study course, so I'm going to throw that in. And this is videos and guides and just a whole bunch of content information to really make you a master of your menopause. So that will also be incorporated in this offer. And if you would like to book a call, and I have a QR code here, Lindsay is going to drop some links in the chat. I think she did that. Thank you, Lindsay. And then if you want to just check in to this QR code, you can get information on the program. And if you are ready to just say yes, you can do that there as well. So why now, right? Why is this so important now? We want to make sure that you are starting the year strong with a wellness plan in place. So you don't have to get to January 1st, going through the holidays, right? Feeling kind of lethargic and just not quite ready to jump into your new year. So you have a strong plan in place and ready to go. You'll get the benefit of working with me, both a clinician and a coach, to really get you your breakthroughs. We're going to get you clarity on your unique needs using that personalized gut test. And this is not a cookie cutter approach. That is not the way I work. So you are going to receive a very high touch experience. You will feel, I absolutely promise you, lighter, healthier, and free in your body by springtime. And these results can happen so fast. And that's really what's so amazing about it. We can help you overcome your hormonal chaos and really feel more ease and confidence in your body, really building that strong foundation of health. So you have that energy and vitality in 2025, excuse me, to manifest all your life goals, whether it is the big trip that you want to take to Europe in the fall, or the promotion, or fitting into a certain dress at a wedding that you have coming up. Whatever your life goals are, they are absolutely possible, and we want to build that strong foundation of health to get you exactly where you want to go. Okay, and so I want to share the investment here. So the first thing you can do, the way we can move forward here, is book your complimentary call, and this is a call where we can just get you the clarity that you need, go through the program, go through any questions. Is it a right fit for you? And you can book your complimentary call by next Wednesday, the 27th, the day before Thanksgiving. And this is going to actually, if you choose to move forward and make a purchase, we will lock in a $1,000 discount to the usual rate. So that will come to a $4,000 rate for pay, if you'd like to pay in full, or I also have a payment option in place. And so for this offer is in place until December 12th. So purchases must be made by December 12th. Okay. So you really want to book your complimentary call now, before November 27th. And then we have 2 weeks in December to get on the phone and really meet and have you ask your questions, just again, see if it's the right fit. So I encourage you to book a consult call now. And then, of course, you have the QR code and the links here if you want to just look at the program. And if you're ready to make purchase and you're ready to go, that is also totally available to you. All right. So now I would love to hear um, from all of you, and we're going to dive into some questions now. So, love to hear just what are some of your key takeaways. We can list maybe one or two key takeaways from what you've learned today, and the dots that maybe you've connected to your own health, your gut, your menopausal symptoms, your own journey, and how you might like to take those and move forward. And I would love to take some questions now as we have time in the remainder. Okay. Can we have links in a follow-up email? Yes. So Sandra, yes, absolutely. We're going to get you the recording. We're going to get you the links. So you will have those by this afternoon. Am I covered by insurance? So I actually take HSA and FSA payments. So that is easy. And then I'm also happy to write a super bill that you are welcome to take to your insurance company to seek reimbursement. Thank you for that question, Jackie. Sandra, can we do this and remain vegan? Yeah, I mean, there are absolutely lots of people who maintain a vegan diet and do very well in menopause. Now, there are some, I mean, quite honestly, who as their hormones are changing, and I sort of mentioned as our estrogen drops and we are becoming more insulin resistant, a vegan diet, which tends to be a very high carbohydrate diet, may be much more challenging for someone to manage the hormonal changes. So it's really kind of a case by case. It's certainly something that we can talk about one-on-one, how you can go about maintaining a vegan lifestyle, and if there are ways to sort of incorporate, more animal products in a way that feels comfortable for you. I know that is a big shift. So there's, that's a deeper conversation, but I hope that answers your question. Suzanne, do you recommend any amino acids to specific foods which are beneficial? So I mean, certainly protein, it's wonderful to get in amino acids for, just to make sure that you're meeting your protein needs. I do recommend certain supplements to maximize muscle gains. I really like to take a very individual approach. So I don't usually like to share the supplements that I tend to offer because, what works for one doesn't work for another. And I just want to be responsible with it. Um, So now leucine, I could just say generally is very important for muscle building. So leucine, you'll kind of hear that amino acid called out specifically for protecting and building muscle. And then, in terms of other kind of antioxidants and nutrients that we certainly get from food, yes, and this is really the whole approach of kind of food as medicine, using food as medicine to really leverage the amazing nutrients in food to really heal and optimize our systems. Darlene asked about probiotic and prebiotics above, and also curious, how are you especially targeting GLP-1? Oh, I'm sorry, I really ran right through that. So the four tips, excuse me, let me go back. The four tips that I offered specifically do actually also boost natural GLP-1 production. So we can do two things. We can heal our gut, and we can also maximize our natural GLP production by increasing our fiber, really hitting our fiber goals. By excuse me, by incorporating in as much variety as possible, developing a very diversified gut microbiome. Acromantia, as that's the strain that I had kind of mentioned, is very much associated with GLP-1 production. That's also something, to kind of look into when it comes to stimulating your own production. So it really is a whole range of strategies that we need to use to heal our gut. But when we are able to clean it up, get the balance of good to bad bugs, right? Get rid of that dysbiosis, heal the gut wall, reduce inflammation in the gut, that absolutely is going to stimulate your natural GLP-1 production. I hope that helps. Thank you. Okay, any other questions? We have just a couple more minutes. Any that I missed here? Yes, thank you so much for being here. Suzanne, oh, Suzanne, you're already in Europe. Well, maybe, I don't know, maybe you want to go somewhere else in the world. You have a life goal to do some other kind of global travel. I'm jealous. I'd like to be in Europe right now. Suzanne asks, so a few low carb, high fiber foods for the vegan lady. Yeah, so vegetables, of course, are going to be generally low in carbohydrate, and a good source. They're not going to be your highest source of fiber. But I would actually recommend or encourage you to look into resistant starches. So these are, it's like they're magic. Basically, excuse me, if you look at unripe bananas is a resistant starch. Cooked and cooled white rice, or rice, it doesn't have to be white, rice, pasta, potatoes. There's a way that actually the starches in those foods, when they're cooked and cooled, become resistant to digestion and actually can get you lots of really good prebiotic fiber for your gut. So that's a great question. Melissa, if you don't have menopause yet but want to have a smooth transition, what are your suggestions? I love this question. And in fact, I plan to really spend much more time talking to the perimenopausal ladies, because there is so much you can do to really have a more smooth transition. So number one, I would say now is the time to key in your gut health. Okay, because it's going to it has potential to get kind of rocky by the time you get to perimenopause. So all the things that I'm talking about today are things that you can be doing now to really attend to your gut health. I mean, I think the GI map test is fantastic. I mean, it's not a perfect test, but it can really help to provide some targeted, some guidance on how we can kind of target what might be going on in the gut. And so you can do a GI map test now, and then you can make changes and test again in a year, and just, kind of keep an eye on what's happening in your gut microbiome. And then also just notice, like what are, as you're kind of moving into perimenopause, are there some other changes that you're starting to notice? Right. Um, Really taking on this kind of quality, the looking at food quality again over calories. This is something that I want to just keep drilling into all the ladies out there. This took me a long time to really move through myself with my own kind of stories around calories and whatnot. But so to really kind of embrace food as medicine as a way forward, and a way of really truly nourishing yourself from the inside out, because can be just incredibly powerful. Uh, okay. Any other questions? Darlene, can you help us get the GI map testing if we aren't in your area, or would we work with our GP or doc? So, I know I think you're in Australia, right? So I don't know that the GI map is actually available. I mean, I know that where I source my GI map test is not available outside the United States, but there might be some other tests that are that are relevant to the GI map. That's not the right word I'm looking for. I'm having word finding difficulty, but I think you know what I mean. Similar tests to the GI map that are available in your area, and I'd be happy to chat with you about that. Okay, everyone, we are at time. It was so great to be here with you. Thank you so much for your questions and all your comments. And I really do hope to see you. It'd be awesome to see you on a consult call one of these days. I'd love to talk about what's possible for you. So thank you again for being here. And you certainly will get the replay as well as links to everything that we shared today. All right. So thank you so much. Have a wonderful day, and I hope to see you soon. Take care.